Hey, it's Prerak, and in this video, we're installing this Maxidot cluster in my 2016 Polo GT. Now this cluster actually has a lot of names. It is also known as the MFA Plus, the Highline cluster, Polo 6R GTI cluster. So it has a lot of names. Basically, a Maxidot cluster is the cluster in which you have a menu with which you can change different settings of your car. Now as you can see, I have park assist, automatic park assist in my car, so it has that menu at the very top. Basically, these clusters just allow you to scroll through a lot of the settings for your car, and a lot more retrofits are possible after you have installed this cluster. So let's get straight to the installation and see how it's installed. Step 1 is to remove the top cover of the steering column. It is held into the cluster by 3 locks. The cluster itself is held on by 2 T20 Torx screws to the dashboard, and then it can come out. And now comes the part where we code the new Maxidot cluster. The ODIS instruction says that you need to keep your stock cluster disconnected, disconnected from the car but still connected via the connector. Have both the keys ready. One is in the car right now and the other spare one is here. The Polo GT variant never got 2 full keys. This is a spare plastic key. We need to keep both of them around. So now we are beginning the process of coding the cluster in.
So this here is reading all of the stock data from the cluster, which this cluster was equipped from the factory, like the distance which this car has currently covered. All of this data will be transferred over to the new cluster.
And I guess that's the reason we have it opened but not disconnected, so that we can swap it quickly.
Yeah, so here it will now ask us to switch the ignition off and replace the cluster. So then it will start the new coding and adaptation process for this new cluster, including which it will adapt the cluster to this new VIN number and adapt both of the keys to its new immobilizer.
And all the readings and everything, right?
Yes.
So kill the ignition. And now we'll have to replace it?
Yes.
Okay. So cool. So cool. It's in German right now. It's good that we can change all of that.
So here it has now gone into its test plan, which are also known as guided functions. So here it will ask us to adapt the anti-theft immobilizer.
Okay. So now with the online access, the immobilizer has been adapted. So I think my car will start now if I turn the key.
No, now we will adapt both keys, and after that the car will start.
Okay.
It will do some basic adaptations with the ECU and the other control modules of the car. Now if you look here closely, it is doing all of its things which it needs to do. All of the parameters which are specified by VW. Now it is asking us to specify the number of keys which we need to adapt. So now using the plus buttons, we'll now adapt the keys, number of keys which are needed to be adapted.
Okay. So we'll select 2.
Yeah. So
okay.
here we go.
So one of them is inserted right now.
Yes. So now if you'll focus over there, after me selecting OK,
yeah,
it will say 0 of 2.
Okay. Let's see.
Yeah, one key is adapted.
Top of washer fluid? No.
So now
wo bhi gayi?
Yes. So now we'll use the other key. We'll remove this key, and with this key, the second key will also be now adapted with the immobilizer.
Okay.
So here you go, 2 of 2. Both of the keys are now adapted. Switch the ignition off.
Okay.
And now it will simply say that the teaching process of immobilizer was successful.
Complete, continue. Okay.
It's doing its thing.
Switch on ignition again.
If you focus here now, see,
It's all done.
Yeah.
We can start the car. Oops. The reason we had to jump start the car was because someone was charging their phone through this cable right here. That someone is that person. He thought charging his phone was more important than coding my cluster, so perfect. It starts up. After the process of coding has been done and the cluster is looking prettier than ever, we can put back the two screws holding in the new cluster and put back the top trim, which can be locked into the cluster first and then above the steering column. After enjoying the view of it starting up, we can use VCDS to code out the bulb out warnings by disabling the lamp diagnostics in the BCM and have an error-free cluster. Now let's understand what is different about this cluster than the stock one. You can see the difference between the Maxidot cluster and the stock midline cluster, as they used to say, which is pretty apparent. This just has 2 dials, while this has 4 dials giving you extra information about coolant temperature, and fuel gauge is analog as well here. This used to give out this information as well, but this is just a cooler way of displaying it, don't you think? And this looks a lot better with a bigger screen in the middle, and it has a chrome ring around the tachometer and the speedometer. I don't know if you can notice it. I think if I turn on off the lights, you can. Yeah, now you can see it better. That ring around the tachometer and speedometer. This didn't have it. This overall looked good till you see this. I mean, this was okay, but after you've seen this, I think this just feels like a huge downgrade. And needless, I mean, I don't need to tell you that this didn't have the menu. You could just scroll through the limited option that this cluster had. The new Maxidot cluster has all the information that there was on the stock one. If you just scroll through it, you can see there's everything that there was on the stock one. And you can see when we come to the speed, it has bigger text and it is higher resolution than the stock one, but still, I mean, it is pixelated, it still looks outdated. That's fine. You get a permanent 30 degrees Celsius like ambient air temperature right there, and you can change that if you want alternate speed in that. As you can see, it has alternate speed right there. So the 30 degrees Celsius has bumped up slightly and you can see 0 miles per hour there. I do not like this one, so I'll just untick it. And as you can see, I'm just customizing the screen, the Maxidot, by just clicking the right side button and opening a menu. And on top of that, this cluster will actually show you which exact door is open, not just that there are doors open. It'll tell you if I open the driver door, it'll say that the driver door is open. Now if I open any other door, it is going to specifically tell me that that particular door is open. It works even for the boot. As you can see, driver door is open, rear passenger door and boot are open. As you can see, rear passenger door and the boot are open. Now it won't tell you for the bonnet just yet, because this is the contact switch that we need to add to that. As you can see, it says switch right here. This is the contact switch that we need to add to the latch in the bonnet, and then that can work. So in the next video, we'll be adding this. And it still doesn't end there. The possibilities are so much more than what I've just told you. I just told you that we can add that bonnet open warning, like it'll display that the bonnet is open with this switch, but we can even add washer fluid reservoir low warning, which will just tell us that, hey, the washer fluid is running out, you need to fill that up. No Polo gets it because the cluster cannot support it, but now we will have that warning if we add that sensor, and we can wire it up and it'll work. Same goes for a brake pad wear indicator, direct DPMS, navigation. There's just so much that we can do with this. While I am going to add everything that I just mentioned, let's just see what all we get in the stock form if you just got this Maxidot. So the first one is for the park steer. I have the automatic auto direct 8K OPS module installed basically. So it gives me this option to just deactivate the automatic function of it. Now if you don't have that module, you won't have the first menu, but you'll have the rest of them in the list. So we can just change the language on the go if you wish. I wish I had a back button here, but then you can change what all you wish to see, and you can change the time. I mean, you don't have to go down there and click the set button and play around with it. You can just change it with your arrows now. You can change the hours, you can change the minutes. More features in the time menu itself are you can change the hours and minutes from right here. You can even activate 24-hour mode if you want to. I like the 12 mode better. If your country has daylight savings, then you can activate daylight savings here as well. Beneath that is winter tires. If you have winter tires, you will probably they are higher section tires, and you won't be willing to speed a lot in that, but you know that you have installed winter tires, but maybe someone else drives your car, so you can activate the warning for it to remind the driver, whoever it is, that winter tires are installed and you should not go above, let's say, 50 km per hour or even 100 km, 80 km, any reading that you can install in this will be displayed above this certain speed has been crossed. Beneath that is units. You can change the units for temperature, consumption and distance, consumption per distance basically. You can change the units for that, and alternate speed display, as I showed earlier, just gives another display right here for speed. The unit is miles per hour. That I don't think it can change from that. And last but not the least is service. It just tells you the information about it, that in so and so days your service is due or inspection is due. And at the very end, it's just factory reset if you want to change all the settings back to factory. And one thing to notice is my driver door is open, so if there is anything wrong with the vehicle, if the cluster wants to give you any warning, so it will add this menu of vehicle status, which will tell you what all is wrong with it. Basically, if your tire pressure is low, I think it shows up here, like the driver door is open right now, so it is telling me that hey, the driver door is open and it has come under vehicle status. And if you just scroll down again in the vehicle status, you can see the service interval. But if I just close the door, that vehicle status menu is now disappeared, and it just, when I press right button, it just takes me straight to settings. But if I open the door, that vehicle status menu is going to pop up. Another feature that I wish to showcase about the Maxidot cluster is during the day when the lights are off, and if any light source, let's say the sun, strikes the cluster directly, you might not be able to read it clearly because of the amount of light that there is. You'll miss the digits. So what the cluster does is, if a light strikes it directly like this, you'll notice the dials have now lit up. If I turn off the light, you'll notice the amount of light that there is, and it will slowly fade down. You can see the headlights, which is still at 0. This light will slowly fade down because no amount of light is now hitting the cluster, so it thinks that okay, that light source has now gone away. It will slowly fade down, but if I bring back that light, it will be at its maximum brightness yet again. And still, even after all of this, if we upgrade the stereo to MIB2, or we install a player which is compatible with the Maxidot, it is going to display which song it's playing, which phone is connected. It is going to allow you to accept and reject calls. Right now, it just tells me that who is calling me. It doesn't let me accept or reject it by toggling through pickup or cut. We just have to use the button on the steering wheel, which mine does not have. So if we upgrade that, the functionality of the Maxidot is just going to increase even more. So the possibilities are so vast once you've got a Maxidot. I mean, Maxidot is for the people who actually want to go that far with their car, like to install such stuff. I don't know if anyone cares about these small things, but I do, and I like adding such stuff to the car. And I think I'm going to go down the route of adding direct TPMS. Before that, we need BCM Max, and then we can even add keyless entry. So much is still to be done to this car that the possibilities are endless, and I'm going to explore how far I can physically go. So that's why I got the Maxidot, and for me, it's just a blank canvas at this point. So that was all I wanted to share on the Maxidot cluster. Future videos will be around adding more and more things to it, which are now compatible with this car. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.